I'm Jess, and it's so great to be with you for a few moments today. Welcome to Kingston Standard Church, our online version. I'd love to invite you to connect with us online or in person. If you're in the Kingston area, come on out. We would love to see you. If you're limited to online connection though, not a problem. Just be sure to check out our website for at-home worship resources. But in the description box of this video, you're going to find the link to our website. As well, you can always follow us on YouTube and like us on Facebook, and be sure to subscribe to both so that you'll stay up to date on all the new content when it's posted. We have a variety of resources available to families and kids on both Facebook and YouTube, so if this is your first time joining us, or if you've been here before, we want to encourage you to go ahead and check that out, because our mission is to equip families for the conversations that they have together to learn and grow and follow Jesus. And if you want to touch base personally, then feel free to reach out. You can send us a message on Facebook, or you can use the address below. So let's dive in and see what we're going to learn about today.
Hello, my name is Tanya Nace. I'm the CEO of World Hope International here in Canada, and we're the official relief and development organization for the Wesleyan Church. And I'm so excited to speak to you guys at Kingston Standard Church, and look forward to getting to know you a little bit. We're going to actually jump right in, and I'm going to tell you a few pieces of information about World Hope, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how you can be a child champion. As the Relief and Development Organization, we kind of focus on 3 pillars around the world. We do clean water and energy, protection and education, and global health projects. And we do all of that in partnership with our local churches. We're going to actually jump into Matthew 18 this morning, and verses 1 to 5, if you want to jump there with me. This is Jesus talking, and the disciples are all discussing who's the best among them, who's the greatest. And this is what it says. At the time, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" He called a little child to him and placed the child among them. And he said, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Therefore, whoever takes the lowly position of this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me." Now, like Jews at that time, the disciples were probably trying to figure out, how is Jesus going to set up this physical kingdom here on earth? Who's going to have the best position? Who's going to have the top office, maybe the corner office, if you will? Who's going to have the position with power and wealth? Who's going to have the most? They were thinking physical. They were thinking here on earth. And that's why they were asking, Jesus, who's the greatest? Who's the greatest here among us? They were interested in who is going to be the best. And it was really interesting because Jesus responds in a way that he often responded whenever there were questions given to him. He answered with a story and with an illustration. They're wondering, who's the greatest in the kingdom? Is it me, or is it them, or is it someone else? Who's going to get the good stuff? Who's going to be in authority? Who's going to get the biggest paycheck? And Jesus said, "Let me show you what this looks like." So he saw a child nearby, and he brought that child to the group. He placed that child in front of the disciples, and he said, "You must be like a child if you want to be the greatest. Your heart must be like that of a child's heart, and if you want to understand my heart, you must become like a child. Whoever welcomes a child welcomes me, for a child is an emblem of a true disciple of Jesus Christ. You must be a child champion, if you will. Because a child champion knows what a child is like. They understand the low ranking of a child. They know that a child is humble, that a child is weak. They know that a child is pure and innocent. They understand the child's heart. They know that by welcoming a child, they welcome Jesus." It reminds me of the prophet Amos in the Old Testament. And he was a simple fig farmer and a shepherd, and he was just doing his own thing. And God called him to say, "I want you to bring my message to Israel. I want you to bring my message to the northern kingdom," at the time. And this was the time whenever Israel was jostling for the best seat as well. They were trying to figure out who's going to be the greatest, who's going to be the best. And the king at that time was only interested in gaining territory and wealth and power. And at that time, they were being purely evil to those who were innocent and those who were vulnerable. Amos shared with Israel. He said, "This is what God is saying. God is saying that he only cares about your heart. Your heart is all that matters here." He said in Amos 5 verse 24, "Let justice roll on like the river, righteousness like a never-failing stream." The word justice itself actually means concrete actions to correct injustice. There has to be some type of action take place for there to be justice. And that's the word that Amos was using. As these concrete actions of correcting injustice takes place, God was saying, I want this to permeate my people like a rushing river going through a riverbed. I want there to be justice like a river, rolling like a river. You see, God always puts justice and the poor and the vulnerable in the center of the gospel. The poor are at the heart of the gospel all through scriptures. And the most vulnerable are the children. We see Jesus telling us to welcome the children, and we know that justice is at the heart of Jesus' teachings. He commands us to love the humble, to love the lowly, to love the hurting, to love the vulnerable, to love the poor, and to love the widows. In fact, God himself chose to incarnate as a lowly, poor, vulnerable infant, a tiny baby who was a Nazarene Jew, a person from the wrong side of the town, from the wrong side of the tracks. Can anything good come from Galilee, people would say whenever Jesus was born? And Jesus Christ, the God-man, was powerless and despised. The news of Jesus' arrival on earth was first given to the leftovers, to the marginalized, to the ignored. It was to the shepherds. In my kids' Jesus Storybook Bible, when we read about the angels coming to the shepherds announcing Jesus' birth on earth, they say that they were stinky, smelly riffraff. That's how they describe the shepherds. And these shepherds ran to see a baby born in a stinky, smelly barn. He was lowly. He was vulnerable. Jesus Christ in his ministry on earth raised up the powerless and the voiceless. He raised up the ignored and the marginalized. He called for justice to roll like a river and for children to be welcomed. Jesus was the best child champion that there is. You see, our heart is all that matters. Jesus sees our heart, not all of the other things that we try to do with our lives, because out of our heart flows our actions. Jesus wants us to be champions for the vulnerable, champions for the dying, champions for the lost, champions for the poor. How can we welcome a child in the way of Jesus? How can we take action to ensure that justice and fairness takes place for the vulnerable? And the most vulnerable among us are the children. Well, there are many, many ways to do this, but one of the ways is to become a child champion. And a child champion walks an intentional journey of discipleship through prayer and sacrifice, through humility and love. It's one incredible way to connect to God's heart for the children and for the vulnerable. Pastor Rob has been to the community that I'm getting ready to tell you about, but we're really excited to share that you can become a child champion for a community located in a very rural, mountainous part of an island off of the coast of Haiti. In this country, Haiti, there's a lot of civil unrest happening right now. There's a lot of gang violence, there's a lack of fuel, there's a huge amount of food insecurity, there's lots of death happening right now. It's just extremely tragic what's going on in Haiti right now. But the Wesleyan Church there is being the hands and feet of Jesus every single day. And in one of these communities that's on the island of La Gonâve, in a very mountainous region, it's not been touched as much by the gang violence, but it has been impacted by the lack of food and the lack of water and difficulty to access resources. For over 3 decades, the Wesleyan Church of Haiti has been dedicated to spreading the gospel in this really small mountain community on the island of La Gonâve. They recognized that they needed to put a school there because the children were very vulnerable and did not have access to education. So the church leaders, along with other friends from around the world, decided to establish a really small school there despite the limited materials and teachers. World Hope then began a partnership with this community and school last year to help connect Wesleyan churches in Canada and the U.S. with children in this community so that we could help them begin to flourish and to thrive and to access tools to build change in their community on their own. The goal is eventual long-term sustainability in this community. Agriculture is a main activity for the area's residents, but unfortunately the community is facing a really big challenge of accessing clean water. In the times of drought, residents are forced to travel for miles to get access to clean drinking water for their daily activities. I want to show you some slides of the school here. This is a picture of the school. This building has about 4 to 5 different classrooms. It's grades kindergarten to 6, and there are 75 students that attend this school. There are 7 teachers teaching at this school. You'll also see that we have a water reservoir that has just been completed. This is to capture rainwater to be able to help treat it for drinking for the children and for the community. You'll also see a picture of the church, and the kids are kind of standing around the church, and then also a photo of the kids just hanging out in the schoolyard at this school. By championing a child from this community, you will become more deeply connected to the heart of Jesus. And we want to become more like Jesus. We want to walk in holiness. We ourselves, we want to be transformed through the power of the Holy Spirit. You see, transformational development is not just physical, although providing clean water and food access and quality education and child protection is very important. But transformational development is also deeply theological, because we must bring our theology into all aspects of how we respond to the needs around the world. And we know that Jesus' heart was for the poor and for the vulnerable, and the most vulnerable among us are the children. So how can you become a child champion today? Well, there are a few different things you can do. You can pray for your child, for the school, for the teachers, and the Wesleyan Church in this community. You can give for $45 a month that will provide food and school supplies for your child, but also safety and teacher training and community development for this community. You can learn a lot about this country and this community as well. If the children represent to us what a disciple of Jesus should look like, then by becoming a child champion for a child, you'll grow deeper in your walk with Jesus as you walk with your child. As you understand a little bit more of their reality, you better understand God's world. And then you'll also be transformed yourself. We're transformed through a connection to the world as much as the child's life will be transformed immediately if you become a child champion for them. Their school will be transformed, their community will be transformed. God's kingdom principles are such that when we give generously to Him, we ourselves are blessed. And it doesn't make any sense, but it is one of His scriptural principles, and it's a really neat thing to be a part of. World Hope's child sponsorship program is really unique because we partner with an entire school. We select a whole school that was either started by a Wesleyan church or has a Wesleyan church presence in that community. And we partner closely with the teachers to help them grow in their skills and their education. We want the entire school to receive tools of change so that they can become sustainable. We want to help them prepare their future community and country leaders, which are their children. We also partner to do protection education, how to help keep their children safe, how to understand what trafficking is and how to avoid that should that be a problem. We want to help provide clean water and health access. We want to holistically help change the lives of the kids in our sponsorship schools because we know that community transformation provides a bright future for these kids. Transformation creates change and helps empower the next generation who are future leaders. So not only are these children valuable to God, but their humble posture is to be a model for big people like us. So with this heart and a posture of humility, would you welcome a child into your life? Would you become a child champion today for a child in this community in Haiti?
Today, as a part of our time together, we wanted to take just a few moments to pause and reflect on communion together. And although it's a little different when we're doing this in this environment, we're thankful for the opportunity to be able to observe this sacrament together. And so if you need to take just a moment to gather some elements at home, then let me encourage you to take a moment to do so. And as we gather together and we consider the fact that on the night that Jesus was betrayed, that He took bread with His disciples and they were celebrating Passover and observing the celebration of the freedom that had come for the slaves that had left Egypt. And as they were getting ready to leave Egypt, they were celebrating this meal together that God had given them, and this meal had been celebrated over and over again. And here's Jesus celebrating it, and He says, all along, this bread has actually represented my body, which is broken for you. And now each time that you eat it, I want you to remember my sacrifice for you. Remember me. Let's eat together. A little later on in the meal, there are toasts that are a part of the Passover celebration, and One of those is known as the cup of redemption. And the redemption that is a part of the people of Israel leaving Egypt and being free is one aspect that they are celebrating. But now Jesus says, all along, this cup of redemption represents my blood, which is given to free you from the slavery of sin. And so, as often as you observe this and as you drink this, remember me and my sacrifice for you, and how we are connected together, how our lives are joined, and how we have an opportunity to be able to live life well with Jesus guiding us. What a beautiful picture that is. Let's drink together. Father, we thank you for salvation, for the reality that your death and resurrection on the cross is the complete payment that we needed for all of the creative sin that's been a part of our lives, and all of the creative sin that will come in our lives. And we thank you for the fact that you forgive us and that we can continue to turn to you and allow you to guide our lives moment by moment, day by day, and that you will encourage us to come to you and to receive your forgiveness, and then to receive the abundant, the beautiful life that you have in mind as a result of it. And so we're so grateful and we're so thankful. And when we think about the gratitude that comes from this moment, we just are kind of puzzled to know just exactly how to say thank you. In the last few minutes, Tanya has given us some opportunities to recognize how the freedom that you've given to us is something that we can give to others. And so, God, I pray that you'd help us to really, kind of dwell on that and think about that and respond well to what you're calling us to do as a result of the freedom that you've given us. We thank you for your goodness to us, your generosity that you have poured out on us. And here in this month of gratitude, as we celebrate, here next week, we're thinking about Thanksgiving and recognizing that that is coming up, and we know we have so much to be thankful for, and we have so much to be grateful for. And so I pray that our gratitude would be expressed in our actions and in our service to you. In your name I pray. Amen.
Thanks again for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channels, or if you're watching this on Facebook, then you can like and follow us there. And it would mean so much to us if you took a moment to comment, like, and share this video so that others are able to enjoy it as well. And hey, if you're in the Kingston area, come on out. We would love to see you. Please know, though, that you are loved and that we're praying for you. And we certainly appreciate your prayers too. We'll see you soon.